Melissa Scott's trail cameras might contain clues about the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. RCMP asked her for days of footage as the investigation into the missing children approaches the 3-week mark.
I know that there's a lot of people pulling for these kids to come home. We've heard a lot about the impact that this is having on the community at large and the family, and it's really important that we locate these children and get the information from the scene here and from anyone who might have information about the kids and their habits.
Awesome kids, very, very kind. They'll talk to anyone. They want to go with anyone. They're just looking to have as much fun as they can. Jack just absolutely loves bugs, dinosaurs, and anything like that. But Lilly loves girly things, but she also loves doing everything with Jack, bugs. They're like best friends, not just brother and sister.
Flying in someone to do a polygraph test, is that on you?
That's not just on me, but on everyone. That's what I asked for. I asked for that so early on, and there's not many places that do it in Canada, so they're flying somebody in.
Why do you think you need to do that? Do you think they don't believe you?
I think their side of the family doesn't believe me, and I just want to clear it up for everyone. Clear it up for everyone, not just the people online making crazy accusations and everything else.
On May 2nd, a huge search was underway for the disappearance of 2 siblings out of Nova Scotia, Canada. Lilly Sullivan, 6 years old, and Jack Sullivan, only 4. They were reported missing by their mother and have not been seen or heard from since. But I think we missed some critical information out the gate. We learned that the Major Crimes Unit of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police was on scene on May 3rd. That was our first indicator that this is a criminal investigation. Despite the words and the pleas from the mom and the stepdad to activate an Amber Alert, there was a lot of resistance from the RCMP. And now we're learning why. I don't believe they believed the parents' story as to what happened to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Where is Lilly and where is Jack? If you have any information on their whereabouts, their parents' location, or have any camera footage from April 28th to May 3rd, please turn it over to the RMCP today. From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work, we will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you. God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims. Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. Bullhorn Betty and Delilah's next to me. She's moving around, so I figured I might as well just play with her a little bit while we allow people to come into the chat. It's nice to see you. I'm Bullhorn Betty. I cover true crime, and we are covering the case of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. They are 2 missing siblings out of Nova Scotia, Canada, in the Lansdowne Station area. I see Belinda coming in. It's nice to see you. Barbara, Kim, it's nice to see you. Tara, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. Homegirl, it's nice to see you. Donna K, it's nice to see you. Donna W, it's nice to see you. Hello, hello, hello. So we are learning some new information about the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case, and there's several takeaways that I have, okay? And these are, I think, very critical behavioral type of things that we need to focus on because it deals with law enforcement behavior. And if anybody knows anything about my strategies on here, especially in lack of information, I watch the law enforcement and their behaviors. My only downside is I usually watch law enforcement from the United States. I don't know the laws in Canada. I don't know their constitution. I don't know anything. So I don't know what's proper and what's improper and so I have to kind of fall on the idea, oh, hey, Dee, it's nice to see Dee, mystery obsessed up in the house. It's nice to see you. So I have to fall on that, law enforcement is a specialty and it's a worldwide specialty. So I have to kind of think that they would be using some of the same procedures that we would have here. Maybe they have the same law, different laws. They have different abilities with their citizens. They may have more control over their citizens. But I have to think the investigation side of it is going to be predominantly standard operating procedures, so that's kind of the theory I'm taking when, diving into what's going on the ground. So there's several things that I need to take away. First of all, we know if you've watched my latest video, which I just dropped right before this live, so you may want to wait until the live's over and go check it out. But, there's trail cameras. They were asking people for trail cameras and they were going further out, even 18, 20 minutes away from these children's homes and asking for those trail cameras. So that is a critical next step, because now they're going to start eliminating vehicles. So now we know that they're starting to talk to citizens and residents of the area, identifying what makes and models of vehicles that they are driving. We now know that there are citizens out there, even though they don't have a lot of reception and stuff like that, have independent trail cams that are up. So those residents are now being asked to go grab those cameras and produce them. But these are not the most critical of the statements in this article. One of the identifying the most critical in my opinion out of this recent article about the trail cameras is, even though we've known that the major crimes unit has been on scene since May 3rd, I don't think we realize the implications of the major crimes unit being on scene on May 3rd. Remember how the parents were screaming from the rooftops, they want the Amber Alert, they want the Amber Alert. All of us were kind of sitting back saying, why isn't Canada issuing an Amber Alert, right? Even if not for, precautionary reasons. I mean, there's 2 children that are missing in the middle of nowhere and there's no sighting of them and who knows what happened to them, right? So why don't they initiate the Amber Alert? And many of us, I'm sure people were with me before we were looking at the parents, thinking that was, pretty petty. I mean, we got 2 missing children here. I mean, at what point do we start, raising the roof on every front to find these children? And so, for whatever reason, we knew that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had their major crimes unit on scene since May 3rd, but we didn't understand it. And then we couldn't understand why they weren't initiating an Amber Alert. It is of my opinion that they knew on May 3rd that the parent's story wasn't jiving because they called in the major crimes unit. Why would they need a major crimes unit out there on the scene for missing children that just wandered off from their home? It's because they knew in my opinion, something was very sus. And I got to tell you, out of every place that I go, which I do a lot of ground stuff, I do a lot of front row stuff. I'm usually boots on the ground. I'm not going to be boots on the ground at all for this case. I can tell you it's in Canada. I don't know Canada. I don't know their laws. I don't know the journalism laws. I don't know anything. I'm not going to educate myself, and I'm not going to pay the money to go out there and try to figure it out, okay? So we're just going to do this from the sidelines and what have you. But at the end of the day, we don't know what is going on or what they truly do have. The one thing I can say about the Royal Canadian Police is that they have been making sure that the public, like we are consumed with information. They're making sure information is going out, but they're keeping a lot of stuff close to their to the chest. And it's very, what it reminds me of the most? The Idaho 4 case. Because this is kind of like a lot of the strategies that the law enforcement was using in the Idaho 4 case. They were giving updates on leads, on search areas, on how many people are involved, how many detectives, which branches of law enforcement. But they were keeping people talking about stuff that they wanted them to talk about, right? And but they kept everything that was, the integrity of the case really close right here until boom, this guy out of left field named Brian Koberger is being arrested in Pennsylvania. They did an amazing job, and this is resembling a lot of, in my opinion, of how Moscow Police Department was handling there, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But even with all that, the information is still very scant. The real information that we are looking for is scant, right? And the information we're looking for is the information law enforcement doesn't want us to have, right? Because we want to know it all, right? We want to know it all. They have a lot of different laws and how they do investigations. Yes, Mariah. That's why I said, I'm not going there. I don't do internet. I don't mind discussing it. This is my first international case. This is from another country that I don't live in and never visited before. And the only reason why I think I really did kind of take this case, even though it's in Canada, is because I can understand it. It's in English. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of French people there, and I don't speak French. I don't understand French. So it's very hard for me to decipher what's being said in other languages, which is a language barrier, and one of the main reasons why I don't cover cases in other countries. But this one I can understand. This one, these beautiful faces behind me. And I was looking at videos and photos of these kids, and we see photos like this, right? We see photos like this, but I don't think I don't think we have we can conceive how tiny these kids are. Okay, these kids are really small, even though they look really big here. Like, Jack is only 4, Lily is only 6. They were tiny kids. But I have to think that at this point, at this juncture, we should have some type of article of clothing. No? Should we not have any type of evidence from a 4 and a 6-year-old scattered somewhere out there in the big world of nothing behind their house, if that's the direction that they went? And it sounds like they have found some things, just none of the things that belong to them. It's nothing like U.S. law and investigation. That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm learning. Major Crimes Unit is always called here in Canada. Are we sure? Because I'd like to find out if that's true. Because, if you have missing, somebody that just wandered off, I don't see where Major Crimes Unit is needed for a child just wandering off. That seems a little, especially one that they have to, travel 30 to an hour away. That doesn't make sense. You got to remember, these kids, this wasn't a crime. This was just children. Parents got up and the children weren't where they're supposed to be, and mommy and daddy called law enforcement right away. They were only, they just took their eyes off them for about 20 minutes. So this, I don't think, would rise to the level of major crimes. But I'm still learning. I don't want to discredit. I'm still learning because, again, Canadian law and American law, from what people are telling me, are different. They still should have called the Amber Alert and speak with the neighbors in the beginning. Well, my understanding is these neighbors here are like 18 minutes away from where this house is, where these children disappeared from. They've expanded. So what they've done, so let me just clear this up so everybody understands. There's several things that they've just recently done. One is now they're expanding their search. I don't want to say search like they're searching for the kids type of search, but the search for evidence. They've expanded that search to start including larger areas out from the home and incorporating, they want camera footage, any type of camera footage from any type of angle that they've got. They're wanting to get that footage. They've also increased the investigation time frame. And so before, I think they were only looking for May 1st to May 3rd. And now they're going all the way back to April 28th to May 3rd. And they want any type of footage or information from all the way back to April 28th. When they start doing that, in my experience, it truly does mean they do not believe the family's timeline. And they want to corroborate more of the timeline and identify what people were moving at what time. That's just been in my experience. So I do believe that they should have called an Amber. Somebody should have a nationwide alert for children that aren't abducted, but God knows where they are. If like these, they don't have anything for that particular category, and they kept moving all of these alerts around about 2 years ago, and I remember saying this is getting ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. I mean, I understand a silver alert or, another type of medical alert. I can understand that. But to make a statewide or a countywide alert versus a statewide alert versus a national alert, when it comes to our children, I think when it comes to all of our children, at least children under the age of 12, I think it should always, 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 always be a national alert. Just me personally, okay? Something's up with the parents, and that's why we still have. There's still some, and I agree with that. There's definitely something up with the parents. There's something that I don't like about mom, okay? Because let's face it, we learned here on TikTok yesterday when we were having these same conversations that it's possible that Malehya is actually trying to avoid the police. I was not well versed in native land, in chiefs, and the cooperation from, say, like the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the reservation. I even went as far as to say we don't have reservations here in Florida. In Florida, but we do have a few reservations here in Florida, but nothing that I've ever had to deal with that I could remember anyways. And to learn that law enforcement can't question or investigate on reservation land, I remember hearing something about it a long time ago, but I just forgot it because it's something that's just one of those things that aren't utilized. I don't have these issues with reservations or tribunals, different native tribunals and stuff like that. So it wasn't at top of mind. But somebody in here was from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, which is like the next biggest city next to this area of Lansdowne Station. And so they were kind of educating us and told us, wait a minute, law enforcement just can't go on land and question her. And she hasn't been back to the property. So it started, having this undertone of maybe she's left because she doesn't want to answer any more questions from the police. Has she lawyered up? I really don't know. I don't think major crimes is always involved in Canada. Well, Royal Queen, that's what I'm thinking. That seems like a little over, a little extra, like too much. But to have them there the very next day, that is, no matter what you look at, that is a clue. That is a cue. Okay, that is law enforcement behavior. And when in doubt, always look at law enforcement behavior. As law enforcement, this is just things that I've experienced over, over the course of time doing this job. If law enforcement is communicating regularly and keeping you up to date on where they're at, what they're doing, then they're dealing with a low-level case, missing person, runaway, something of that nature. But as soon as it changes to criminal and there's an investigation, you start seeing them shut their mouth more. They're no longer, even behind the scenes, when it's a missing person and a runaway or something like that, when you do open record requests, those are fulfilled. You don't have a lot of challenges with those being fulfilled. Now, as soon as that turns over to an investigation, this is now under criminal investigation. We cannot, then you start getting they close the open, because now it's a criminal investigation and they don't know what is associated with the case and what is not. So now they won't give you any type of public record, at least here in the States. Now I realize I'm talking about, just understand, when I'm talking about my experience is garnered strictly from the United States of America. If there are things that differ from the United States and Canada, and most Canadians would know that, but I would not. So if you know that there's differences, educate me on that, because it's just things I don't understand. And every time I talk about my experience, it's here in the United States of America, not in any other country around the world. So just want to clarify that so there's no misunderstandings. They should have kept an eye on those babies. I think this is more intentional, and it really sucks because I'd like so much more information on this alleged house party. That is the one thing, and I know it's probably going to come later down the road, but it's just driving me up a wall. I want to know what the heck happened at this. One, I want to confirm first. I don't want to assume anything. Just because I heard it doesn't make it so. It's rumor. Nobody's been able to corroborate whether there's been a house party at this house in or around. We heard that there was a neighbor that said, but where did they say it? Was it in the news? How was their identity corroborated? I don't want their identity out there for people to harass or anything like that, but how was their identity corroborated? And are we sure that this person wasn't a troll and truly was a neighbor? So I've got some questions about that. That's why I've been focused on it. So if anybody ever finds out any corroborating information about this house party, please let me know. If anybody's coming across this and was at that house party, but doesn't want your identity known to anybody, let me know. I just want information. I don't want to expose anybody at this house party. That's not my intention. Now, if they want to come forward, of course, I'm happy to bring them up and give them a platform. But all I really want, in all reality, is just the information. I've got questions. I'm not here to judge people. I'm just here to find out the truth. So, I don't really even care about the substances and stuff like that. If they were there, they were there. I just want to know the truth. It helps get to the facts of the case. And so we're not spinning wheels in rabbit holes. We're not out there in an unending speculation of things that aren't rooted in good fact, but it's specialized unit that is typically called upon serious and complex investigations. Yeah, but I didn't notice why they pointed that out, but this is what happened. They said, I read a report, and this was days ago. It might even have been last week or the week before. And it didn't make sense to me, but I read something, and I don't know where I read it. I don't know if it was online. I mean, I know it was online, absolutely, but I don't know if it was like on YouTube, if it was on X, if it was on CTV, if it was on an article for CBC. I don't know. But what I do know is that there was somewhere, and maybe it was a video. Maybe it was a news report. I have to go back through the news reports. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I believe it. I heard it audio. I think it was audio. Anyways, I heard that the major crimes unit was there in secret. That's why I'm pointing it out so much. And maybe some other people missed it, but I heard somewhere that they were secretly on grounds as early as May 3rd. But I didn't understand why it would be so secret. And then it was just like I was reading this article about these trail cameras, and it's like the light bulb just finally went off. Sometimes I'm a little slow with information. You know, I read it and it doesn't you know, gel well in my head. And so it sits and gets stale for a second until something pops up and it's like, oh my gosh, I remember this. And so I remember something. I don't think they said it was secret that they were on there. I think they implied it. I think they said they secretly were investigating. I can't remember the exact words that they used, but it implied secret, like they were there and nobody realized that they were the major crimes unit. So I thought that was weird and didn't understand why I thought that was so weird. But I did think that that was awfully weird. Let me go up. It just popped up on me. Sebastian Rogers written all over. Yeah, we've got another situation. And not only that, but, you know, there's been always the back and forth between these cases and stuff. And I think, and I've said this a couple times now, I believe that the details of the case, like location, you know, just the odd nature, the greenery, the dense foliage and rugged terrain. The details remind me a lot of the Summer Wells case, but the behaviors of the mom and the stepfather, some of the statements that they've made, it reminds me a lot of Chris and Katie and the way that they've behaved in some of the statements that they've made, which bother me to absolutely no end. We will know what the cameras have been looked at. We know that we've already got some angles, at least from the cameras, but without physically being there on the ground, I can't make out heads or tails of the roads and what road goes where, because usually those are the things that I do when I'm visiting. You know, I go and go through all the roads, and sometimes I'll even go live and take us on a little road trip, you know, through everything so we can see where everything's at. But this area, I'm literally stuck on Google Earth and maps, and it's, to me, it's hard to understand. So that's just for me. But I'm hopeful that they find them. But I truly believe water is going to be a factor in this case. There's just this hunch and this gut feeling that's just gnawing at me because of some of the statements Daniel has made. So, Susan Smith, yeah, Summer Wells reminds me of this case. Yes, Tanya, that's exactly what I was talking about. I don't believe one word that has come from the parents. I'm always skeptical when we're dealing with any of these cases. I will be honest with you. I'm very skeptical of anybody that's in and around any missing person or any deceased person. I've learned over the years of doing this, just be skeptical of everybody, right? And you just start watching and listening, and I just really trust my brain and my gut. And when something doesn't sound right, like, you know, I analyze things and I question myself, like, why would that person say it that way, or why would the person add this into it when they weren't asking this? You know, and I'm very, very skeptical. And then, of course, I do the background check, and sometimes the background check scares the crap out of me when you find out who some of these people are that we cover, and it's scary. And and what's even more scary is that some of these people that are around the victim have these horrible, I mean, like, atrocious backgrounds, violence, everything. And they have nothing to do with it. They're sometimes the most worried people out of. I mean, truth is truly stranger than fiction. And yes, Tanya, I hope they're found safe. But law enforcement has already told us that that the children aren't alive. That there's no way that they would survive the weather. They've had no food, water. that they pretty much say it. That was the reason for them originally scaling back the search, was because they had no more urgency at that point. When they scaled back that search, that was them identifying that the children were deceased and not alive, and that they need to reconvene, and go to an investigative side. But there were some key takeaways, and those key takeaways is that major crime unit was on scene since May 3rd. They refused to do an Amber Alert for the parents. The date of searching and gathering evidence has expanded it all the way to before the children were last seen by a third party. If you recall, the children were last seen by a third party on April 29th. They're asking for footage and information all the way back to April 28th, so a day before the last sighting from a third party. This is telling me that they're not believing the parents, that there are major issues in the parents' timeline, so much so that now they're required to go back and build the timeline. That's what that's indicating to me. So, but that's really all we have right now. And these are critical, this is critical information. This expansion of the investigative timeline all the way back to April 28th. The fact that the major crimes unit was on scene since May 3rd, and most likely they're in secret. And then of course we have the trail cameras, and I'm very interested in what those trail cameras will garner. But unless the residents, leak what they released or what they viewed on these cameras, we most likely won't know, because I don't think the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is going to divulge that information to us. They could have been picked up. Nobody knows I'm just telling. Listen, Angie, you don't beat up the messenger. If you don't believe me, go back and look at the press conference. The guy in the gray suit, tall guy, brown hair, he said it. Okay, he's law enforcement. And every time I come on here and people don't like what I say, they say go to official resources. I go to official resources, then they complain about me reiterating what was told to the public by law enforcement. I'm not the one saying. That's law enforcement that told the public that. We have 138 people in chat. If you guys have heard out of the mouth of law enforcement that these children are not alive, and that is the reason for them scaling back the search, raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat. If you didn't hear it, put a 2 in the chat. I will find it and I will make a new video about it. Okay, so there you go. Okay, it's not me saying it. So it's unfortunate. Okay, so we do have some people that didn't hear it. Okay, well then maybe we need to make a video so you guys have that tidbit of information, and at least you'll have some receipts to back it up. That makes no sense either. Why stop looking? And they never stopped looking. I think they just changed their strategy of looking, because if you go back, they ended their search after day 5, but then they re-energized this search over last weekend, and they had hundreds of people out searching for them again. So I just think it's a different type of search. I think it's now, they just changed the type of search to more of a recovery mission. So that's the only thing. All right, so what I'll do for the people that had 2, that put a 2 in the chat, that never heard that come out of law enforcement, I'll find that information, and I'll prepare a video, and I'll either drop it later today or I'll drop it tomorrow. And it might be tomorrow, because then it'll give me time to fully research the information, and then at least you guys will have something to reference, so you guys understand why I'm and again, this is why we would expect the mother to be screaming to the top of her lungs in any camera that she would be in there to find her babies, because that's the information law enforcement would have told her, if that's the information law enforcement is telling us. So, why wouldn't she be screaming in the camera, for any information about her babies? I mean, if I had children, and my children, I have step-grandchildren. Okay, step-grandchildren and stepchildren, 2 stepdaughters and 5, maybe 6, grandchildren. The grandchildren, in my opinion, at least the last 3 are mine. They're mine because I was there for their births, except Holly. She was 6 months old when I met her grandfather. But I keep thinking about them, and I keep thinking if something happened to them or they disappeared, what would their mom do? First and foremost, she would lose her ever-loving stuff. But how would she act if she found out that law enforcement believes her children are no longer? She'd be in disbelief. When I try to play the tape through, my true opinion is my stepdaughter would be in disbelief. So much so, she would be like me. Show me they're not here anymore. Show me that they're not alive. How dare you say that? The anger that must have consumed somebody hearing that from law enforcement, especially like you said, Angie. Who knows? They're not even really looking at the aspect of the abduction theory or somebody picking them up or something like that. But there has to be some evidence for law enforcement to make that public statement. You understand? Law enforcement is not going to be that irresponsible to make a statement like that without truly having something supporting it. So I have to, go with what they say. And that is the crux. That is exactly why they said that they were ending the searches after 5 days. Their exact words, because they do not believe that these children, could survive the inclement weather or the terrain. I can't remember what they said. I don't believe that that's the reason. I think they found something, because we've never heard the type of dogs that they took to the house. And I have to think that at this point they've had cadaver dogs there. And if we looked at the Sebastian Rogers case, they would have had cadaver dogs on the grounds within a matter of hours, So there is that. If I was told by Ellie not to talk, I'd be screaming from the roof. Yeah, exactly. And I hear that all the time. And not only that, but don't you guys find it funny that, again, we come back to almost the Sebastian Rogers case? Don't you think it's funny that Chris was the only one cops told not to say anything about anything? And likewise with, what's her face? Malehya? And then the other person, like Seth and Daniel, seem to have never gotten those instructions by the same law enforcement officers. Isn't that always funny and how it looks? We all know that we believe them, although we could have found something, not saying they haven't, but I think you're still probably on the cop thing, Angie. They said they lost the children's scent at the end of the driveway. Could this be another Noah Chamberlain case? Oh, I've never heard of the Noah Chamberlain case, Foxy Nina. The police know something that they're not saying. Now, Candy, I'm there with you. I always believe law enforcement, even though they come out and it's just because I've got friends in almost every branch of government, literally every branch of government, from law enforcement to political, just about everything. I know somebody personally, and one thing is, if they're telling us something, they have way more than what they would ever be telling us. So I think she's staying on the reserve for a reason. See, and that, Carrie, that's what was the Laurent? St. Laurent was here yesterday and was telling me a little bit about the whole reservation and the cops and how all that works. I'm when it comes to stuff with reservations and tribunals, like reservations and chiefs, and I don't know nothing about it. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm ignorant in that area of law. I've never experienced it. So yes, because it makes it harder for them to take the baby. But Candy, I'm hearing the baby is in the Department of Children and Families custody as is, in protective custody. That's what I'm hearing. Because a lot of people have said that, and I'm like, wait a minute, she's in protective custody. So if she's in protective custody, now what's the reason why Malehya won't come out? They can come on our reservations here in Montana to arrest for the crime committed. Oh, interesting. Yeah, and that's what I'm finding out. There's a lot of different nuances that the United States that differs from Canada. But hey, you never know. We might be one big happy family from what I'm hearing. I've been reading some news. It looks like we're trying to acquire Canada or get married. It sounds like we're trying to have a partnership. I wonder if the United States is going to marry Canada and their baby's going to be Mexico. I don't know. Who knows? We might have national travels, because I think instead of them making it, 3 different countries, I think they're just going to make it one big happy country. So then we're not invading any territories. I don't know. I don't know. My friends from Canada, I don't know if I want our baby to be Mexico, though. I think I have my eyes on something a little more tropical, nice, not so many cartels, not so much corruption. I don't know. I used to love going. I've never been to Canada. I've had a lot of beautiful people I've known over the years because a lot of Canadians come here to, because I'm in Florida. They come here to vacation and stuff like that and buy houses. And I've sold insurance. I've sold homes. So all those things are kind of, geared toward people that are in retirement age and stuff like that. So I've known people from Canada, just never visited Canada. I always thought Canada was too cold. I had this little, she was, bless her heart. I was working for a realtor. I was just an assistant, and this lady, she was an older lady. I want to say she was like 80s, and she was this, like I said, she was the sweetest person. She would just call, even though we had sold and closed this house, she would just call up to the office just to say hi, just to see how I'm doing. And one time she called and she was just in tears, and I'm like, oh my God, because she's old, older. I don't want her in tears. I'm like, so my heart's breaking for her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I can't even remember the lady's name. This was 20 years ago. And she's like, we just got back to Canada, and all of our pipes bursted in our basement. And the water is pouring out of their basement window all over their yard. And this poor little lady, she's got to call somebody to help her. Her and her husband can't fix it. It broke my heart. But that's as much to Canada and I always thought it was too cold. And I remember that story for 20 years. I'm like, nope. Went up for the salmon runs. Oh, beautiful area. Well, that's interesting. Maybe I was meant to be born in Florida. Miss Important. Yeah, I used to like it here a lot more when I was younger. We're getting overcrowded. We're going to be the next freaking California or New York. It's just a matter of time. It really is. I mean, we're going to start. I mean, since I've been here, we never had traffic jams. Ever. And over the last 15 years, our traffic is horrible. It is atrocious. Oh. My name is Byam. Nice to meet you. Oh. Well, there you go. Guys trying to play hookup in the chat. I'm just joking. My buddy was like, come out. It's not bad that day. It was minus 25. Excuse me. I know, but you guys don't get it. Like, I am cold at 60 degrees. Okay, I'm cold at 70 degrees. Like, my house right now, I've got the air conditioning at 78 degrees, and I could push this air conditioning to 80 degrees and be more comfortable than I am right now. Key West. Key West is fun. Key West is fun. Criming Shame just posted a video about it. Betty, what's your opinion on it? On what? Lori, you're gonna have to, because I'm here. I haven't watched Criming Shame. I don't know. New York is overpopulated, and now Long Island is just bad since COVID. Yeah. Well, that's it. We're getting overpopulated. Every place is getting overpopulated. My grandparents live in. Oh, I said that. Criming Shame. All right. Well, that's really all I have for this segment of the show. I just wanted to come and tell you guys the important information. This is important information. If you are taking notes of this case, these are dates and times and actions that you need to notate on your stuff. Now, I'm working on a timeline. I'm trying to get the timeline built right now. So if you guys have any critical information about this case, specifically timeline related information, this happened here, anything that somebody says, even if they're very vague, like this happened in the morning of Friday or this happened in the morning of Saturday, anything that we can pump something into that timeline, send it over to me at bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. And there's a pumpkin patch nearby, a big circle. Oh, some psychic that was I actually watched that. I know exactly what you're talking about, to be honest with you, which is funny, Lori, because I usually don't. But it was Reverend Donna Sephora, and she's a psychic on YouTube. She has helped in law enforcement cases in the past, most notably Lori Vallow Daybell Vallow, or Vallow Daybell, whatever, however you say it. And, she's just talking about her visions, and she even explains it, because I've spoken to her directly before on the Summer Wells case. And she can say that it's she visualizes, say, a green truck. I think a green truck was brought up in Sebastian Rogers' case. And so how it is it could be a green truck, but she doesn't know where the green truck is or what the green truck is, okay? It could be a vehicle on the road. It could also be incorporated into a sign. Or, you know how some people have, like, mailboxes and they have those, like, wood designs, some may look like a truck. It could be something like that. She doesn't know what the meaning of the green truck is. She just knows that the green truck is incorporated into the story somewhere. So I think it's pretty interesting, but I did watch Reverend Donna, and I heard what she had to say about it. And you guys should go over to YouTube and check it out, because it's only like 9 minutes, and you'll be able to make heads or tails of it for yourself, and get your own opinion on it versus somebody else's opinion. So anyways, guys, thank you for being here. I hope to be back later today, but if not, I'm going to try to be on here at least once a day just to say hi to you guys and to go over any information that I have about this case or the Sebastian Rogers case. So hope to see you soon, and Chi for live. Thanks for coming by and saying hi, love bug. I'll see you on the main channel here soon. Love you guys. Take care.